Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of the Big Fight Feel podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on, everybody? This is Joseph Conlon today with episode 3 of the Big Fight Feel podcast on Saturday, March 20th, 2021. I know I've only done 3 episodes of the podcast so far, but I can tell you guys with today's lineup of topics, I believe this is the most stacked episode of the Big Fight Feel podcast I have put together yet in a short 3 weeks. Today we got a lot to talk about on the channel. We got our main topic. Fastlane pay-per-view is tomorrow night. I'm going to talk to you why this pay-per-view is just completely unnecessary 3 weeks before WrestleMania. Andrade says the rumors of him requesting his release were true. We are going to talk about that entire situation with Andrade. And could that be the reason why Charlotte Flair was removed from the WrestleMania 37 poster? Eric Bischoff was announced this week on the After the Bell podcast as a member of the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2021. And Vince McMahon. Oh, Vince McMahon. You wonder why the shows on Monday night and Friday night are garbage. Folks, there was a report that Vince McMahon surrounds himself with yes men and people who won't challenge him backstage. Is it with the music? Unfortunately, I do not have a drink with me today. I am filming this. This will be up today, but I am filming it at 11 o'clock in the morning. And I am not going to have a soda at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's just not happening. I have a long day of, March Madness basketball, family coming over. So that's what I'm going to save my soda for. So I'm not going to have it at the time of recording right now. But for you guys at home, whenever you guys are watching this, I bet you it's a good time to sit back, relax on your Saturday afternoon. If you don't have much to do, or if you don't want to watch the March Madness tournament, just sit back, relax, turn on episode 3 of the Big Fight Feel podcast, and have your favorite drink with you, and just enjoy the podcast, man. So I thank you guys for being here on this Saturday. Like I said in the intro, we got a lot to talk about. We have a lot of wrestling topics to talk about. We have, I believe, seven topics to talk about today here on the podcast. And man, I think I got some great takes for you guys today. We got a lot of rumors that a lot of people are talking about that happened this week. And I was going to dive into it, but I was like, I want to save it for Saturday. I think this would be a good topic to talk about on the podcast today. So I'm very excited to bring this episode of the podcast for you guys. It's a busy time of year, to be a wrestling fan. You got Fastlane tomorrow night. We have the road to WrestleMania with your weekly content. And then WrestleMania week, which I am going to be sleepwalking by the end of WrestleMania. I'll be sleepwalking in Tampa when I'm at WrestleMania. But here's the schedule that WWE is giving to us the week of WrestleMania. You have Monday Night Raw on April 5th. You have the Hall of Fame on Tuesday night, which I will not be covering the Hall of Fame. I'll probably tweet about it, watch a little bit of it, but I will not do a video about the Hall of Fame here on the channel. So that's Tuesday night, you got the Hall of Fame. Wednesday night, you got night one of NXT TakeOver, Stand and Deliver, along with AEW Dynamite, but I'm probably going to watch TakeOver over Dynamite. Thursday, you got night two of NXT TakeOver, Stand and Deliver. Friday, you got SmackDown, which I heard that episode of SmackDown is going to be pre-taped because the Tampa Bay Rays actually have a home game that same night as the last show of the last SmackDown before WrestleMania. And where WWE goes after they leave Tropicana Field, I don't know. I honestly don't know. And then Saturday, you got night one WrestleMania. Sunday, you got night two WrestleMania. And then you got the Raw after WrestleMania and NXT on that Tuesday. Absolutely crazy stuff from WWE. That is almost, if you count it up in your head, thinking how long the shows are going to be, that is almost 30 hours. 30 hours of just WWE content alone. That is insane. That's insane right there, folks. But before we get into the topics of today's podcast, if you guys have not already, make sure you check out the videos that were done this week. We have the Monday Night Raw review from Monday, the Go Home show. Before Fastlane, you had the whole Nickelodeon thing with Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman. We talk about that. Wednesday, make sure you go check out this past Wednesday's AEW Dynamite review, where I was here with Wesley Williams, and we talked about the Thunder Rosa Britt Baker Lights Out match and everything else that happened on the show. Make sure you check out my NXT review with Cameron Johnson, where we talk about the Finn Balor, Karrion Kross situation, and them going for the tag team titles, it's just such a mess. And then yesterday, the Fastlane preview predictions. This is the main one I want you guys to check out for right now. Fastlane preview and predictions with Bonafide Heat is up on the channel right now. If you have not checked it out already, make sure you check that out before tomorrow night's pay-per-view. I'm definitely going to promote that at least one more time before Fastlane starts. So if you have not already, make sure you guys check that out on the channel. Let's start the podcast, man. We got a lot to talk about today. I don't want to waste any much time. We are already 9 minutes, just about 9 minutes into the podcast. So we are going to start at the top, the main topic of the video, with the Fastlane pay-per-view tomorrow night. It is not necessary at all. The WWE Fastlane pay-per-view is not necessary at all. Now, why do I say that? Why do I say that the pay-per-view is not necessary? Folks, number one, we don't need 2 pay-per-views on the road to WrestleMania. 1 pay-per-view is enough. The way WWE formatted their pay-per-view schedule throughout the year it's ridiculous. They have too many pay-per-views, and you wonder why. You wonder why nobody anticipates WWE's B-level pay-per-views compared to, let's say, takeovers or AEW pay-per-views is because they only have five takeovers a year. AEW has 4 pay-per-views a year. Let me get myself comfortable here. And they have build, or not the takeovers recently. They haven't been that great. But for AEW, they build compelling storylines heading into the pay-per-views, matches that you want to see with good storytelling. And I think that's one of the difference between AEW and WWE is AEW has a much better hype and a better anticipation when it comes to pay-per-views. Yes, Revolution. Not a lot of people might have not liked Revolution. I thought it was a pretty good show. But you gotta admit, it was probably the most hyped pay-per-view since the first Double or Nothing. Because they gave you a lot of things. Sting. The big signing, Christian Cage. The main event. A lot of people were talking about the show leading up to it. And that's one of the problems with WWE. Even WrestleMania. As much as I don't want to say it now because I'll be at the show and I hope it's a very good show. But WrestleMania, what are they giving you to be excited about? Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley getting a rematch for the WWE Championship. Roman Reigns, Edge. I guess that could get you excited, I guess. That's on you if you're excited or not for it. And it seems like they're adding Daniel Bryan to make it a triple threat. What else are they giving? They're going to give Shane McMahon, Braun Strowman probably. Even though that's happening at Fastlane. AJ Styles going for the tag team championships. I mean, and then the build. They're cutting the build for WrestleMania, and this is another reason why I said the Fastlane pay-per-view is unnecessary, is because with WWE having this pay-per-view tomorrow night, after the show gets over, you're leaving 3 weeks. 3 weeks to build WrestleMania. For WrestleMania, the biggest show of the entire year in pro wrestling. You'd think that WWE would have weeks and weeks and weeks since the Royal Rumble of dedication to making this WrestleMania the best build it could possibly be, as having the best match card it could possibly be. And they haven't done that. And it shows because they've been building to Fastlane. And another reason you can tie why they're building the Fastlane more than WrestleMania right now is because of the whole Peacock situation. WWE is doing their first pay-per-view tomorrow night on Peacock. Now it says Peacock and the WWE Network. I don't know if that's just for people in the United Kingdom, in the UK, but for US people, tomorrow night is WWE's first pay-per-view on Peacock, and as much as the build for Fastlane, as much as they don't make you care, out of a 10, I'd probably say I'd give this pay-per-view a 3 for hype and anticipation. I mean, the build just hasn't been great at all for Fastlane. It's been very lackluster on Raw and SmackDown. But when you look at this card and you think this is the first Peacock pay-per-view, WWE is loading this pay-per-view up. You have two of the biggest names of the entire company, Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns, main eventing for the Universal Championship, probably the main event. You have freaking Shane McMahon wrestling on a B-level pay-per-view. I don't call Shane McMahon a big draw, but they probably think he's a big name because he's a McMahon. So they got him wrestling on the pay-per-view. They got Drew McIntyre and Sheamus on the pay-per-view, which is now a no-holds-barred match. You got Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair going for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Now, why would they go for the Women's Tag Team Championships? Because they are probably the two biggest names in the women's division right now, and they need a match for them on this show, I guess. So they're going to put them up against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax for the Women's Tag Team Championships. Then you got Randy Orton and the Big E and Apollo Crews, and now you got Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura. WWE is stacking this pay-per-view up. And you could have used these matches. If you wanted to have these matches on the road to WrestleMania, you could have used these matches on Monday night and Friday night to make those shows impactful and to make those shows mean something on the road to WrestleMania. But now, instead, you got this thrown into a Fastlane pay-per-view, which we don't need at all. You got this thrown into a Fastlane pay-per-view for the Peacock deal, and then you're leaving WrestleMania with 3 weeks of build. It's kind of a slap in the face to the fans, too, that you're giving WrestleMania just 3 weeks. 3 weeks of WrestleMania build. But does that feel like you're just throwing a card together in the final stretch? I mean, I could probably predict some matches right now for you guys that haven't been announced that is going to happen at WrestleMania. Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt. Damian Priest and Bad Bunny versus Miz and Morrison. That's basically confirmed, but WWE hasn't confirmed it yet. Seth Rollins versus Cesaro. That is more than likely going to happen at WrestleMania. A fatal four-way for the Tag Team Championships with the Dirty Dogs, the Street Profits, Alpha Academy, Gable and Otis, and the father and son duo of Rey Mysterio and Dominic. And then Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, which I actually like that idea. That is a very good mid-card match, and it's good for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, because I think they would I don't know what else they would do at WrestleMania besides having each other. So I like that they're finally having Owens and Zayn go at it at WrestleMania, because they have that fight forever type feud that they just keep on fighting and wanting to beat the shit out of each other. So that's that for WrestleMania and the build. But you could have used these matches that are happening on Fastlane tomorrow night, and you could have, put them on Raw and SmackDown, in my opinion. We've seen Sheamus and McIntyre on Raw before. Have Roman Reigns defend the Universal Championship on SmackDown against Daniel Bryan. Have, Big E defend the championship against Apollo Crews on SmackDown. I think it would make SmackDown and Raw feel important. So that is my whole situation. It just feels like WWE is just... It feels like they're just pushing WrestleMania to the sideline for right now until Monday for Fastlane. They're pushing it to the side for this C-level pay-per-view on Peacock. That's just my opinion. So that was the opening topic. we have Andrade. Andrade came out on Twitter. I'm going to find his exact tweet right now because I don't have it written down. Hold on a second. Here we go. So Andrade makes a tweet this past Thursday, and what he said was, the rumors are true about me requesting my release. He says, the rumors are true, and I don't know what the future holds, but I want to make my dreams come true. Thank you for giving me so much support these last days. And then he says that in Spanish. He says that whole translation in Spanish. So the man himself came out and said that he's asked for his release. Now, it was reported Monday night during Raw that he got denied. Vince McMahon, for whatever reason, said no. You're not going anywhere. For right now, you're staying with us. Now, it sucks for Andrade. It sucks for Andrade because clearly, even after when he came out and asked for his release, it's very clear that he does not want to be with the company. He wants out. Even with his fiancée being Charlotte Flair, who's probably Vince McMahon's favorite female wrestler. It's probably Vince McMahon's favorite female wrestler who, Charlotte and Andrade are, they're with each other and they're very happy with each other. Now, could this be a reason why Charlotte Flair was not on Raw Monday and was not even mentioned on the show? That could possibly be a reason. And she was originally on the WrestleMania 37 poster, and she got removed. She was not replaced by anybody on the poster. WWE just blatantly moved Charlotte Flair out of the WrestleMania poster. But back to Andrade. He asked for his release last week, March 8th, at the Monday Night Raw tapings. He was said to be miserable backstage. He was not happy at all. And this week, Vince McMahon denied it. Vince McMahon said no to letting Andrade just walk. He said no. Now, Andrade and Charlotte were not even backstage at Tropicana Field this past Monday at Raw. They were absent from the show. Charlotte Flair, like I said, was not even mentioned on the show. Is WWE going to punish Charlotte Flair for Andrade's actions and him wanting to leave the company? I can't see Vince McMahon doing that. Absolutely not. I can't see Vince McMahon punishing Charlotte Flair. Think about that. You think Vince McMahon is going to punish his favorite female wrestler on the entire roster, probably in the entire WWE, because her fiance is pissed off with the company? He's miserable. He wants out. I don't see Vince McMahon punishing Charlotte for this at all. I think Andrade, to be honest with you, you could have still had him on television. But what really hurt Andrade was taking Zelina Vega away from Andrade. That really hurt him, I think, on his television, on Raw. They split up Zelina Vega and Andrade. I don't know why. And then a couple weeks later, Zelina Vega released from WWE. I think you guys remember why. The whole Twitch situation, her opening up an OnlyFans account. Vince McMahon was like, goodbye. See you later. So I think we all know about that situation. I forgot what I was going to say. I just went blank there.
Because I'm here.
Whoa. That's what happens when we on live, when they were filming in time. You know, anything can happen on the Big Fight Fuel podcast, man. But back to Andrade. It feels like he's going to take the Brodie Lee situation, the Brodie Lee path, and he's going to take the Pac path and just wait. Not Pac, my bad. Brodie Lee. It feels like he is going to take the Brodie Lee situation and just sit out and wait until his contract expires. I don't know when his contract expires. It could be this year. It could be next year. I have no idea. But it could be Andrade is in catering until he is released. And quite frankly, to me, that's sad. You look at Andrade in NXT. He was the NXT champion. He defeated Drew McIntyre. He went on to have one of the greatest NXT championship matches of all time against Johnny Gargano at NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, where he actually retained the NXT championship. And all parts of that match were excellent. Zelina Vega, Candice LeRae chasing Vega away. The crowd was absolutely amazing on that night. And surprisingly, Andrade went over. I thought at that moment with that crowd, Gargano was going to get his big babyface moment. That did not happen. Andrade went over. He then went on to have an awesome match at the next TakeOver with Aleister Black, and he dropped the NXT Championship. And then I believe it was that Tuesday on SmackDown, Andrade was called up to the main roster. And now, as a quick recap for Andrade's run on the main roster, from what I can remember, at first they had him in matches with Sin Cara for like 2 months. He was facing Sin Cara, and then he was in a storyline with Rusev and Lana when they were baby faces, and Rusev was in English with Rusev Day. They faced Rusev and Lana for a little bit, and then they went into Rey Mysterio and their series of matches. And I still remember that singles match that Andrade and Rey Mysterio had on January the 8th, 2019, on SmackDown. That was an incredible TV match, and was probably one of my favorite matches on TV that I've ever seen, to be brutally honest with you. That match on SmackDown, I think it was the first week of January. It was Andrade versus Rey Mysterio on SmackDown. They had an incredible match. It was probably one of my favorite TV matches that year. And then he went on to have a reign with the United States Championship. He had a very bad reign as the champion. WWE, they screwed up his reign as the United States champion. He's feuding with Humberto Carrillo. He then dropped it to Apollo Crews, and then Andrade was done. That's Andrade's main roster run. After he dropped the U.S. Championship to Apollo Crews, Andrade was dead. Andrade was dead from the get-go. After he dropped that, they started to split with him and Zelina Vega. Angel Garza was involved in that. And that was that. Now I think, hopefully Andrade, either A, they have him back on television and they have him in a serious role and they have him with Charlotte Flair, or B, they just release him very soon. Because if you're not going to use a mega talent, a great talent like Andrade, then why do you have him employed? Why is he employed with the company if you're not going to use him and you're going to have him sit in catering and waste his talents? Just release him. But no, Vince McMahon won't do that because he knows, and the WWE knows, that Andrade is going to stick it to them. When he's in another company, he's in an AEW, or he's in a New Japan, or he's in an ROH or an Impact Wrestling, and he's a top guy on the show, who's going to look like the idiots here? It's going to be WWE. Moving on here. A very quick topic right here that I wanted to talk about. Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels in a recent interview. I don't know who it was with, but Shawn Michaels in a recent interview recently said that he regrets coming out of retirement for Crown Jewel in 2018 when he had the disastrous of a tag team match with himself and Triple H, DX, versus The Undertaker and Kane. I think everybody in that match was 50 years old or above, and they could barely move. It was very tough to watch. I'm not going to say it was worse than Undertaker and Goldberg from Super Showdown in 2019, because, I mean, that is just an absolute... That was a nightmare. That was a debacle to watch. That was hopefully something I don't remember, but I still do. I still do remember that match between The Undertaker and Goldberg, and this match too. Triple H tore his pec. He got hurt in the middle of the match. You see his ribs are all bruised up. Clearly something was wrong. So they had bald Shawn Michaels. A bald Shawn Michaels carry the match. He hit a moonsault on Kane when his mask fell off and Kane didn't catch him. And The Undertaker almost dropped Shawn Michaels on his head with a tombstone. It was a mess. But clearly, he regrets coming out of retirement. And I absolutely agree with him. Because that was a mess. That match was a legit nightmare. That match was a legit nightmare. And in my opinion, that match shouldn't have even happened. The only reason it did happen was because it's Saudi Arabia. And the Saudis want big names on this show. So let's get DX and let's get the Brothers of Destruction. It's the only reason why that tag team match happened at Crown Jewel of 2019. So clearly, I agree with Shawn Michaels that he should have not came out of retirement for that shitty match at Crown Jewel. Eric B, as he's called on AEW Dynamite. Eric Bischoff, was announced this week on the After the Bell podcast with Corey Graves and Vic Joseph that he is going to be the second member of the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2021, along with Molly Holly. Eric Bischoff, it's well overdue. In my opinion, it is well overdue that he deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. He is one of the most, if you really think about it, he's one of the biggest names. For an old school fan, he's one of the biggest names in wrestling history, with WCW and the Monday Night Wars, with him being involved and all that. I'm not too keen on that because I know what happened, but I don't have great memory of the Monday Night Wars and Eric Bischoff, what he did back then. But what I do know is that he's a very legendary. He's a legend in the wrestling business. I've seen him on WWE television before. He was in Bruce Pritchard's position that he's at now, executive director. He was that of SmackDown of 2019, and Vince McMahon did not like his ideas, and he was not easy to work with, what I heard. So Vince got rid of him. And he did the same thing with Paul Heyman, and now Bruce is executive director for both shows. I wonder why. We're actually going to talk about that next. But Eric Bischoff is announced for the Hall of Fame. This is well overdue, in my opinion. It is about time that we see Eric Bischoff in the Hall of Fame. He absolutely deserves it. Molly Holly, she's another one. Well overdue. Absolutely deserves it. I don't know who the headlining class of the Hall of Fame is this year, but I heard that they are tying what was supposed to be the 2020 Hall of Fame into this year's Hall of Fame. So Batista is going to get inducted this year. The NWO, they're going to get inducted. I think the Bella Twins were also another one who they don't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame at all. But they are getting inducted themselves. And this is the Hall of Fame is on Tuesday, April 6th, Tuesday night. And it's going to be interesting to see who is going to induct Eric Bischoff into the Hall of Fame. In my honest opinion, Conrad Thompson would be that perfect guy, but I don't think WWE would allow that. Maybe Paul Heyman, not so sure, but I'm very happy to see Eric Bischoff in the Hall of Fame of 2021. We are just about 39 minutes into the podcast. We got 3 more topics before we reach the hour. And I got a lot to say on all 3 of these topics. So you guys are in for a good one right now. First one we are going to start with Vince McMahon. Oh, Vince McMahon. My goodness, man. Let me find this. Vince McMahon apparently wants to surround himself with yes men and people that won't challenge him backstage. This is very interesting, and I'm about to read this to you right now, and I got a lot to say about this, man. Holy shit. So, in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer has gone into detail about WWE putting John Laurinaitis back in charge of talent relations. John Laurinaitis is back with talent relations. As announced last week, I would have talked about it last week, but I did the March Madness special instead. But it seems like him being talent relations did not get a good reaction with the talent backstage. Meltzer explained that like Bruce Pritchard, John Laurinaitis will not challenge Vince McMahon. Meltzer noted that Vince wants to be told everything is great and is surrounding himself with people who won't challenge him. And then Meltzer goes on to say this. Mark Carrano will remain in the role of the guy who gets all the heat and bears all the bad news to talent, which John Laurinaitis, Jim Ross, J.J. Dillon, and others played forever. But Carrano will now report to John Laurinaitis. It was described that Laurinaitis has always had a smile for Vince and won't challenge him. And like with the hiring of Bruce Pritchard, Vince is right now a guy who wants to be told everything is great, which is funny because he's so much not the old Vince in that way. So he's more and more surrounding himself with people who won't challenge him and will feed the idea the company is more popular than ever and television ratings don't mean what they used to. Wow. Wow, folks. I don't even know what to say. Vince McMahon wants to be told that everything is great, and he wants to be surrounded with people that won't challenge him. You know, I got a soda right in front of me. I'm going to take a sip of this real quick and process this in my mind, if you would. You know, you wonder why. Monday Night Raw is the way it is right now. You wonder why SmackDown is the way it is right now. You wonder why we're getting this WrestleMania build on television. And this is it. This is the reason. This is basically telling you that whatever Vince says, or whatever Vince wants on television, or whatever Bruce Pritchard wants on television, they just want all the backstage writers and employees like Ed Koskey and Mark Carrano, and John Laurinaitis and Michael Hayes to be like, oh yeah, guys, good job. This is going to be great. This is going to be a great 3 hours of Raw. This is going to be a great 2 hours of SmackDown. My God. You wonder why you wonder why Monday Night Raw is so bad. It's because there is no effort into the show. Just look at this article. Vince McMahon surrounding himself with people that won't challenge him. So if Vince McMahon writes something shitty like he did Monday Night on Raw with, I don't know, there's a lot of things that were shitty on Monday Night Raw, but let's just say Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon. Vince McMahon comes up with this idea that Shane McMahon and Braun Strowman are going to have a match. The match never happens. Shane McMahon attacks Braun Strowman, elbows him through the table, and then he's going to dump 2 buckets of green slime all over Braun Strowman, look like a joke. Shane McMahon is going to do hopscotch outside the ring to make Braun Strowman look like an idiot. It'll all be good. Vince McMahon wants that. He writes that, and he wants to be like, guys, this is a good idea, right? And he's like, yeah, Vince, that's a good idea. Just put that on Monday Night. Just put that on Raw. And then on SmackDown with Nia Jax and Reginald shopping. Reginald being on television every single week. This is exactly why the company is the way it is. This is exactly why Monday Night Raw is this bad. This is why this is the worst I have ever seen. Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. You know, SmackDown used to be watchable. But then I don't know what happened to SmackDown, man. It seems like after the Royal Rumble, they just went down. I don't know why. I don't know why that is, but it's sad. It's sad that Vince McMahon just doesn't care. And it's sad that Vince McMahon has employees like Bruce Pritchard who are going to tell him, yes, sir, yep, that's okay with me. Every time in a creative meeting, you're going to have those guys say, yeah, Vince, that's cool. Yep, that's good with me. With people who you have like that backstage, does that really make a good company? Who don't put in effort, say everything is great, and stuff like that. Now, granted, not every wrestling company is great. And not every wrestling company is perfect. The WWE is way far from perfect. But with an attitude like this, and a demeanor like this, on the road to WrestleMania, this shows me that, man, Vince McMahon, you've got to go. You've got to go. I don't know how much longer we can bear with this. How much longer are we going to be able to bear with Vince McMahon and his yes men on TV being all hip, all positive and hippie. Oh, Raw's great. Oh, SmackDown. People love SmackDown. It's the WWE. We don't care what we put on television. People are going to watch anyway. No. That's not the way it works. You need to put on compelling television for us fans on a weekly basis. And just make the fans happy. And they don't make the fans happy with Raw and SmackDown. Almost everybody in the entire wrestling community, besides the WWE hardcore loyalists and the WWE shills, everybody says the same thing about Monday Night Raw every single week. Everybody says the same thing about SmackDown every single week. The entire wrestling community is saying this is the 2021 is the worst build to a WrestleMania ever. Everybody in the wrestling community is saying that, and everybody agrees. And it's clearly said that Vince, Bruce, everybody backstage has that demeanor of, oh, it's WWE. We are the top wrestling company in the world. It doesn't matter what we put on Monday. It doesn't matter what we put on Friday. People are going to watch regardless. That is a bad demeanor. And a bad way to go about business. So to read that article and Vince McMahon say he wants to hear that everything is great and doesn't want to be challenged, shame on you. Shame on you, because that also shows me you don't want the shows to get better. See, Triple H is passionate. NXT is not great. Triple H wasn't even backstage at NXT this week. But I have a feeling Triple H doesn't think... I know Vince McMahon has to have a role in these NXT shows. Because what do you think's changed about NXT? You think Triple H has all of a sudden had a different creative mind about NXT? No. I think he knows that too. If you were to ask Triple H, do you think the NXT of 2018 is the same of 2021? He would say no. He would say no. And that's why Vince McMahon needs to go soon. It's not going to happen, but he really needs to go soon. And Hunter needs to step in his role of the owner of this company. Because we're going to get this as long as Vince McMahon is in charge of WWE and running Raw and SmackDown. We're going to get this situation of Vince McMahon wanting yes men on Raw backstage as long as he's in the company. So hopefully he's gone very soon. I doubt it though, but man, this makes me really disgusted to read something and hear something like this. It just shows me that you don't want to get better, and it's truly sad. I haven't ranted like that in a while. Whew. And then we're going to get into an AEW article and an AEW topic. And, this makes me disgusted to read too. Just like Vince McMahon surrounding himself by yes men. This makes me disgusted that I even have to talk about this. And I have to read this. It makes me disgusted. And it shows, once I read this, how sick-minded the wrestling community is sometimes. So we're going to talk about Amanda Huber, Brodie Lee's wife. Brodie Lee unfortunately passed away this past December. His son, -1, Brodie Jr., he's been on Dark a bunch of times. I love Brodie Lee Jr. on Dark. He is very entertaining, and when he's on Dynamite, he could be entertaining as well. But he's barely on Dynamite. He's on Dark every week, and he's having the time of his life. It's making him forget the negatives of his father passing away. So Amanda had this to say about criticism of letting -1 Brodie Lee Jr. on AEW television. She goes to say, "I loved pro wrestling my entire life. It's been my world for 19 years now. I still love it more than most things in this world. I try to ignore this shit online, but no, I see it. I see the comments about Brodie's involvement, the use of the word exploitation. It's disheartening. Our world crumbled. AEW has helped us pick up the pieces. It's easy to be distrustful of any corporation, and I'd be lying if I didn't constantly think the rug was going to get pulled out from under me. It hasn't. Even when it felt like everything was pulled out from under me, it wasn't. They let Brodie feel like he's a part of something. Notice there's no storylines involving him. Just him being connected to Just him being connected to the wrestlers and the audience. More importantly, the Dark Order. They let Brodie feel like he's they let him be connected to a huge part of him that's missing. What everyone doesn't see on the other side of social media is a kid who is carrying so much grief, yet so much joy. A kid who is excelling in his therapy. A kid who, despite the worst few months of his life, got 10 A's and 3 B's on his report card last week. On days we go to AEW, you all are missing him doing his schoolwork from a hotel room because he is going to AEW. Because going to AEW is a privilege. Or sitting with Ani McGee working in math problems. They also make me feel. And this is Tim. This is what Amanda had to say. People like Margaret Stalvey, who sit in the crowd next to me and let me vent and cry, laugh, breathe on the world that wants me to be weighed down with grief. And that's what all she had to say. And it really makes me sick, man, that we have these sick-minded people in the wrestling community. Oh, what the hell's a 9-year-old kid doing on television? Why are they doing this? Why are they wasting our time with Brodie Lee Jr. being on TV? First of all, he is on Dynamite occasionally. He's not even on Dynamite every single week. The last time I remember seeing him on Dynamite was January 20th when they were doing his birthday celebration. That was the last time I remember seeing him on Dynamite. But he's on Dark every single week, and you can clearly tell he's having a blast with the Dark Order, Ty Conti. He's on commentary, burying Excalibur, which is that's the best. What's probably the best parts of Dark for me, because it's funny, and you sit back, you watch, and you laugh. You laugh. But to me, it is just blatantly disrespectful to go out there and criticize a 9-year-old kid who lost his father and is going through therapy and probably went through some of the worst months of his life, losing his father. For some people in the wrestling community to go out and criticize him and call him names and stuff like that, I mean, you're just pathetic. You're pathetic, and you, as much as I don't want to say it, you don't deserve to live on this earth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. For all the people who are calling him names and not letting the kid enjoy life. I mean, this is an escape for him. Him going to AEW and being with the Dark Order and being with the wrestlers and being with Cody, that's an escape for him. And the fact that you don't like that, and you don't like that he's having fun when he goes to these AEW shows, and he's having the time of his life with the Dark Order, and he's like brothers. He's like a brother to the Dark Order. For you guys to say that, I mean, it's just absolutely disgusting. It really is. And I don't know. It's truly disgusting. But I'm happy for when I see Brodie Lee Jr. on Dark. He's a standout because he is a funny dude. He is a great seller. If you guys see him on the ramp, trying to copy what the moves are in the ring. And then him burying Excalibur on commentary. I mean, it's just funny stuff. So I love seeing Brodie. I love him. I love I love seeing him have fun when he gets the time to do so on Dark, Dynamite, whenever. And then the final thing we're going to talk about today on the podcast, and then we're going to wrap it up, is the WrestleMania 37 hosts have been announced yesterday for April 10th and 11th. It was announced that Titus O'Neil and Hulk Hogan will be this year's host for WrestleMania 37. This got some backlash yesterday in the community. This got some backlash. Now, I understand Titus O'Neil. He's from Florida. He's a great dude. This would be a good role for Titus O'Neil, him being the host of WrestleMania in his hometown of Tampa, Florida. But my main criticism with this, and everybody's main criticism with this, is why does Hulk Hogan need to be there? Why does Hulk Hogan need to be at this year's WrestleMania? I just don't understand that. No one wants to see Hulk Hogan as the host of WrestleMania. You had Bayley on the palm of your shoulders, the palm of your hands. What's Bayley doing at WrestleMania? You're gonna put Bayley in the women's battle royal at WrestleMania and not let her do anything? I'd rather be the host of WrestleMania than being a freaking battle royal, which is absolutely meaningless. So you had Bayley on the palm of your hand, and you chose Hulk Hogan over Bayley. Heck, I would have even called up Stone Cold Steve Austin. Hey, Steve, do you want to be the host of this year's WrestleMania? It'll be a good time. You can get a ginormous big pop and all that stuff. It'd be great. I don't understand why WWE didn't call Stone Cold Steve Austin to be host of WrestleMania. Instead, we got to get Hulk Hogan with Titus O'Neil in there, who Hulk Hogan's a racist. So it probably makes Titus, in my opinion, it makes Titus feel uncomfortable. But, man, there's so many better options than Hulk Hogan, in my opinion. You could have had Bayley. You could have Stone Cold. There's a lot of guys and girls that you could have over Hulk Hogan. It just didn't get a great reception. I don't know if people want to see Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania. You know, have him stay home or just have him watch backstage. But that is your WrestleMania 37 host, Titus O'Neil and Hulk Hogan. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of episode 3 of the Big Fight Fuel podcast here today. I thank everybody who watched the podcast for today. I hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the Fastlane pay-per-view review tomorrow night. I'm going to be here with a guest tomorrow night. He has been on my good friend DJ Storms' channel before. He's been on there a lot. And we've been looking to do a collaboration for a long time. I said, what about if we do, I barely have people on reviews, but what about if we review Fastlane together? He likes the idea, so he's going to be on the channel tomorrow night, making his debut on the Big Fight Field channel. We are going to have Earl Cole come on the channel tomorrow night and talk about the Fastlane pay-per-view. I can't wait to have Earl on the channel to talk about Fastlane tomorrow night. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. Comment down below. What did you guys think about episode 4 of the podcast? What do you think Fastlane should happen tomorrow night? What do you think about Eric Bischoff going into the WWE Hall of Fame. What do you think about the whole Vince McMahon situation of him surrounding himself with yes men? And my rant, which I did go on a rant, kind of, a rant on Vince McMahon surrounding himself with yes men. Just all the topics. Let me know what you think of all the topics I talked about today in the comments down below, and I will respond to that as soon as possible. Hit that like button if you like what you heard from me in the podcast today, and if you enjoyed episode 3 of the Big Fight Field podcast, make sure you hit that like button. Follow me on Twitter at Conlon_Joseph. Follow me over there, and I will see you guys tomorrow night for your WWE Fastlane review here on the Big Fight Field channel, man. So have a good night, stay safe, and as always, stay classy.